about a man that's sad and lonely, and all I gotta do is act naturally. Well, I'll bet you I'm gonna be a big star, might win an Oscar, you can't.
Hello and welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning the second, hanging out with Thomas Manning. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. Yeah, hanging in there.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Yeah, you took over for me, at least opening the show not too long ago, because my voice was going nutso. It's still not perfect. Not that my voice is ever perfect.
It never is.
But we'll take what we can get. We are glad to be back with you right here on C19 TV for Meet Me at the Movies, and also WGWG if you're listening to the radio version or downloading the podcast. We appreciate it. A couple of weeks ago, we did talk about Black History Month, and we were celebrating some of the films as it relates to that. And Thomas, as I kind of look at our rundown for this week, especially the first part, it's a celebration of the Asian culture in many ways, and these are all tied to films that you can find here, and we'll tell you where you can find them as well. But there's definitely this theme that comes out, and sometimes we discover these things are kind of unintentional. Black History Month celebration was definitely intentional, but as we were looking through the films for this, we're like, wait a minute, maybe we got something here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, the first one is a film that is just newly released in select theaters and also Disney Plus. It is Raya and the Last Dragon. I always want to see Raya and the Last Dragon, but it's Raya and the Last Dragon. And, you know, as you and I both watched this early, Thomas, and when we did, I found myself looking at a lot of the themes and a lot of the formulas that were coming out of this. And some of the films that came to mind for me were Lord of the Rings meets Harry Potter meets Star Wars meets the MCU Infinity Stone saga. Did I get all those?
Yeah, and a little bit of Mission Impossible in there as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and you could also throw in Baby Driver if you want to throw in a little bit of a heist element, or Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11, actually probably Ocean's 8, since that didn't that have Aquafina in it?
It did have Aquafina, that's right, yep.
So let's get your thoughts on this film that for me, I'll go ahead and I'll just quickly start and say that I thought the animation was absolutely brilliant and breathtaking, and there were times I could not determine between what was real and what was animation. I loved the casting. I loved the story formula, even though it was recycled. I felt that it was done in this kind of fresh, fun, and engaging way. So some of those are my thoughts coming out of the gate.
Yeah, so you have some of the team behind it that directed Big Hero 6 a couple years ago. Also Moana, some of the storytellers behind that. And if you love those films and connected with those on personal level like a lot of people did, then I think you'll really appreciate what they brought with Raya and the Last Dragon. You mentioned the visuals. I can't say enough about everything the VFX artists did behind the scenes. Like, there were 12 minutes of credits, and a lot of that are the computer animators and stuff, and just the rich textured details of all the different worlds that we're able to create within this movie. There are basically like 5 different worlds with different atmospheres, different environments, different visual styles, and each one is wholly unique and special, but they're all connected thematically in a certain way, and they're able to kind of balance the storytelling with the technical nature, the technical beauty of it all in a really phenomenal way. You mentioned Awkwafina in there, her voice talent chemistry with Kelly Marie Tran. Their relationship is a really beautiful thing to see. Great voice talent all across the board. You also got Gemma Chan in there, Daniel Dai Kim, as well as Benedict Wong and Sandra Oh, and like every voice talent character is cast really well, and they fit into the story so beautifully, and just really appreciated so many things about Raya and the Last Dragon.
I did as well, and one of the things when you look at it on paper, there were 3 directors, I think, connected to this, and several screenwriters, maybe as many as 8 if you look at all the story ideas that were brought into this. And many times when that kind of thing happens, you end up with this Frankenstein monster that really isn't worth engaging because it's all over the place. But I felt this was very fluid, and I thought that it honestly did feel like it was very much a team effort, and everything clicked for me. I absolutely loved this film, and you and I talked about it even the day after we saw it. It was still staying with us. A wonderful family film, but also just a film even for college kids and men that are in their 50s. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend Raya and the Last Dragon. You can check it out on Disney Plus and also select theaters. Any other thoughts or comments you want to make sure you share?
Yeah, I mean, really, just the central theme of trust in each other, trust in humanity, very relevant to a lot of things that are going on in the world today, with the pandemic, and we have to kind of put our trust in others that they're going to do their part to protect us, and that we have to know that other people have trust in us as well to do our part and protect them. And then just, of course, the political climate. There's a lot of trust issues in our world, but the way this was delivered, very relatable for people of all ages, as Disney Animation always does such a fantastic job of with their storytelling, and so yeah, I was very impressed as always.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that part up because that is that central theme of trust. And I guess the story question is, can you learn to trust again when you have been betrayed and it's been ripped from you? How do you learn to trust again? And that theme carries the story throughout. So what's your rating for this, Thomas?
Oh, solid A for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Solid A for Raya and the Last Dragon. Minari is one of those films that you and I have been talking about in some form or fashion for a few months now. It has been on our radar because it really got sent out and connected to a lot of folks during early awards season. North Carolina film critics loved this. Other film critic organizations have loved this film as well. It did get a Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film. It is an American-made film, but mostly the language that shows up is another language. But let's get your thoughts on Minari. They certainly let this. Hold on. Let me tell people where they can find it. It is in select theaters, also Amazon Prime, Apple TV Plus, Google Play, and some other places as well.
Yeah. So you did mention it did win a Golden Globe for Best Foreign Language Film, but it's very American story, but also very universal story as well. It's a family that moves from South Korea to Arkansas back in the 1980s, and is kind of a depiction of their adjustment to a bit of a culture shock there. Definitely vast differences between South Korea and then moving to Arkansas, and but tells a story of this one family, but this one family's story, it can be related to so many people all around the world, really. Stephen Yeun in the lead role as the father of the family. His performance, he does really so much just with his body language and his physical expressions, his facial expressions, and his eyes, that he, like, of course his delivery of dialogue is really beautiful, but it's really what he says without saying anything that really kind of makes more of a statement. And I think the same can be said for the whole cast. The whole cast is great. The actress that played the grandmother, she actually won Best Supporting Actress for the North Carolina Film Critics. Well deserved. The little boy, Alan Kim, this was like his film debut, acting debut, and he's maybe 8 years old, and he's going to be a star. Like, you can already tell. And it was just such a beautiful range of emotions that we have displayed. Really, the whole human experience kind of is like threaded throughout this narrative, but in really subtle and fascinating ways.
Yeah, you captured so many of the same thoughts I had, Thomas. I felt this was a very sentimental and a multi-generational love story and a love letter to family. It's an American story, but it's also an immigrant story. There were times it was humorous. There were other times it was absolutely heartbreaking. I think it does address life struggles and the experience of finding and also maintaining humanity. I think that's the challenge that we all face sometimes, is how do we hold on to our humanity when we are faced with some of these life's challenges. I thought it was a thoughtful film. It was insightful. It was moving. Talk about the casting. Wonderful, wonderful casting. The cinematography was marvelous, in the locations. And it was shot in Arkansas as well. There was a lot of talk about this during the North Carolina Film Critics Association, and also the Southeastern Film Critics Association, looking at this film as a celebration and an acknowledgement of the South, even in these kinds of challenging times. Will Patton ended up getting an award from the North Carolina Film Critics Association. He stars in this, and he was acknowledged with an award as well. Minari, absolutely just a wonderful film, and it is one that definitely deserves the praise it has been getting. I think some of the challenges that audiences have, and even critics groups, is, how do you classify this film? And, there are some that want to classify it as a foreign language film, which, yeah, it is. But as you said earlier, it's an American film. So when you're trying to give it an award, where do you fit that? And I think when you've got those films that are on that line, they're made in this country, but yet they carry so much of a foreign language. Where do you place it? And I think that's the problem. We had the Oscars changed their category to best international film instead of foreign language film not too long ago. And so, I think this film, probably it's getting a lot of good praise, and I think it should be getting more praise, but I think the classification of where it fits and how it fits is something that's challenging some people. For me, it's a great film. You don't have to classify it as any kind of language film. It's just a great film and a marvelous story. Solid A rating for me for Minari.
Yeah, solid A rating for me as well. It's written and directed by Lee Isaac Chung, and it's basically loosely based on his own childhood and things that his family went through. And you can tell that, his personal fingerprints are all over it. It's just, there's just so much passion just kind of oozing from the entire film, and really, really pleased with everything we got from Minari.
Absolutely. Well, you are watching Meet Me at the Movies right here on C19 TV. We are talking Asian-related films actually so far, and they've got some connections, that's for sure. Thomas Manning there, I'm Noel T. Manning II. We're going to take a quick intermission. We're going to come back and continue this theme. There's a documentary on Pat Morita that I want to tell you guys about. It's called More Than Miyagi, and I got a chance to check that out. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a film. Thomas has been doing this incredible advanced study on a particular filmmaker that's got some Asian connections as well. So we're going to tie that in. So stick around. There's just a tease of coming attractions right after this intermission.
They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star.
Yeti Baseball is here. Our players are raring to go and swing for the fences. But Yeti Athletics isn't all that's great about Cleveland Community College. We offer a wide variety of programs for students of all ages. We'll help you train for a new job, gain more skills for a promotion, or get a head start on college credits. We know students learn in different ways. That's why we offer online and in-person classes. CCC, we can help you move forward safely. Visit clevelandcc.edu today and go Yetis.
Hi, I'm Shara Miller, the host of Artworks. Each month we bring to you wonderful, talented artists from here in Cleveland County and the region. We have artists, we have potters, we have painters, we have musicians, we have actors. We just have wonderful artists that come to you and tell you about all that they're doing, their creativity, what inspires them. Join me here on Artworks each month on C19. You can also watch us online at c19.tv.
Hello and welcome back to Meet Me in the Movies. I am Noel T. Manning II here, hanging out with Mr. Thomas Manning. Spending time talking movies. If you missed the first half of the show, I'm sorry. Where the heck were you? Where were you? Where were you? That's what I want to know. Where were you? But you're here now. And so, and if you did watch, thank you. And if you didn't, I don't know, DVR it and watch it later. Thomas, I grew up in a time of Rocky Balboa. Also grew up in a time of the Karate Kid. Those two things have a lot of this memory locked in, this kind of flag in the ground memory for me in a lot of different ways. I also grew up watching this guy named Pat Morita, not just on the Karate Kid movies, but also he was on Happy Days. There's a new documentary that looks at his life, and it's called More Than Miyagi. It's directed, edited, and written by Kevin Derrick. And man, it's a personal story about this guy who was an Oscar nominee. And a lot of people don't realize that Pat Morita was an Oscar nominee for Karate Kid. But before that, he was a stand-up comic. Of course, he was a character actor, and he was a star of TV and film. He had many talents, but he also had just as many demons. He was an alcoholic. He had a childhood that wasn't the most pleasant for him. This documentary that Derek put together, it's feature-length, hour-and-a-half long, some really rich archival interviews with Morita. There's some great footage that I had never seen before, and he really dug deep. Dozens of interviews with family and friends, coworkers, and all those things provided really deep understanding and appreciation for this man that people either saw as Arnold from Happy Days or Mr. Miyagi from the Karate Kid franchise, but there was so much more. This bio does look at childhood, it looks at his background, but also looks at those professional coming of age years when he was a stand-up comic in the 60s and how that broke ground for him. You really get a chance to see his humor. You see his loves. You also see the pains and his battle with alcoholism that followed him unto his death. And you also, I think, you see a life kind of unfinished. There were some things that he really wanted to do from a film standpoint. And I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler here, but one of the things, and you can see this from other interviews that he's done over the years, one of the things that Morita wanted to do was to do a Karate Kid where Miyagi dies, and wanted to kind of say a final farewell to Miyagi and do it in a way that was fitting for the character and fitting for the franchise as well, much like we saw happen in the Rocky films when Mickey died. We see the how fragile humanity can be in this film. He died at the age of 74. And something that I thought was interesting that came out of this, when you look at alcoholism, it's something that it doesn't just hurt those who are suffering from it. It can impact anybody in the surrounding vicinity. It's like this bomb that goes off. And so anybody kind of in the wake of that explosion can be impacted negatively. The pacing is a bit off at times. And I think part of that, Thomas, is just because an hour and a half is a long time to do a feature-length documentary. I think this is something that maybe if it had been broken up into many segments, a couple of pieces, maybe could even expanded some. The pacing was off just a bit, but I tell you, it was definitely a rich and worthwhile documentary to check out. It is called More Than Miyagi. You can find it on YouTube, Vudu, and also Google Play and other places as well. A B rating for me for this particular documentary. And I recommend it if you are a fan of the Karate Kid franchise and Happy Days. And if you just want to get a look at who this man was, it's worth your time.
I'll have to check it out sometime. It's been on my list since you mentioned it. I just haven't gotten around to taking the time to watch it yet, but I really need to after your review.
Well, Thomas, you have been diving in deep to a filmmaker that's got some Asian roots for sure, and some deep roots that cover decades and decades and decades. And so give me your thoughts on the filmmaker and the film you want to dive into today.
So yeah, I've been doing a semester-long study on Akira Kurosawa, who is one of the most influential filmmakers in all of cinematic history. Star Wars probably wouldn't exist without him. A lot of his films directly inspired George Lucas in his development of the Star Wars universe, like Hidden Fortress, Seven Samurai. The film we're looking at today is Akira. And the story question for this film was also a direct quote from the film. What would you do if you only had 6 months to live? So the story explains or explores some of the horrors of real life and just how terrifying certain elements of the real world can be. I mean, cancer is just one of the most horrifying elements of existence, and it explores that, but also shows how beautiful the life can be if you are intentional about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, or if you are doing it with pure intentions and you're doing it for the greater good. It's really a film about legacy. You can't take it with you when you go, but you can leave something meaningful behind. It's just such a beautiful film. A few times I just had to like pause it and catch my breath because just some of the moments literally took my breath away. And I think Kurosawa really understands more than anybody relationships and just the core of humanity, raw emotions, and he's able to portray that in just a really visceral fashion. He understands the power of silence and reflection and just existence.
And Akira, and that is was made in 1952. Still a rich film and holds up quite well. Thomas, rating for this film when people want to go back into the vault and check this out?
Yeah, A+ across the board. It's available on HBO Max actually, and on the Criterion streaming channel for anybody interested. So.
Great. Well, we have been covering a lot of Asian-related themes and films this show, and we're going to take a slight U-turn on that and cover one that is available now on Hulu. This film looks at really a tragic life of Billie Holiday. This is not the version that you saw Lady Sings the Blues a few years ago. This is a really deep and vulnerable look of the United States versus Billie Holiday. Andra Day has been getting a lot of love for her acting. She got a Golden Globe. She's won some other awards as well. This is her first feature role. It's brutally raw. She does give an incredibly vulnerable performance. She did tons of research, and she captured the nuances of the dialect, the mannerisms, and also the vocal choreography of Billie Holiday. She even wrote an original song that combined the thoughts of Billie Holiday with Andra Day's own style. It was a beautiful combination. It's called Tigress and Tweed. Highly recommend that. The Billie Holiday song, Strange Fruit, is one of those that carries message and meaning, and Tigress and Tweed does the same thing. It's a really tough and yet powerful story to watch. It's about a woman who's fighting for civil rights, even though there really wasn't a name attached to it at the time. She used music, she used her lyrics as that medium. So the United States versus Billie Holiday, available on Hulu. I'm giving that a B rating, but it's worth watching for Andra Day's performance, if absolutely nothing else. Well, Thomas, we've got time, I think, to dive in and give some thoughts on Nomadland. A couple months ago, I guess we had Adam Long that gave his take, but this movie is getting quite a bit of love during awards season, and quite a few have loved this. And I've got a chance to sit in, you and I both had a chance to sit in on some Q&As as well, but let me give you your thoughts on Nomadland.
Yeah, so written and directed by Chloe Zhao and adapted from a book from Jessica Bruder. And Chloe actually won Best Director at the Golden Globes, and only the second woman ever to do that, the first woman of color. And Nomadland also won Best Picture Drama at the Golden Globes. And it's really just it's a story about, real people, real situations, and just kind of the candidness of life and everything that encompasses the highs and the lows and the pain, the peace, and the tranquility, and also the turmoil, and just all of that kind of displayed just honestly and openly, and without any it kind of just shows it without any heavy dramatization. It's just the way it is. And that's what I was really struck with just how natural this film felt. It shows the natural beauty of the world and just the natural everydayness of life. Frances McDormand in the lead role, she's probably she's gotten a lot of love in critic circles, and she's probably gonna be nominated for an Oscar for this as well. And there's a lot of spirituality in the narrative that kind of it can be related to anybody, regardless of their religion or lack thereof. There's just something about the story that there's just kind of an essence, a spiritual essence to it, which I found really beautiful. And there's a lot that I could talk about, but I know you've got some thoughts on it too.
Yeah, cinematography, absolutely marvelous. One of the things I think that makes this film work is because of the style, and it is a style that is it's narrative, yet it's almost a documentary unfolding. You don't feel like you're watching a movie; you feel like you're watching life unfold, and that's something that is very difficult to do and to do well. And this director, the producers, the cinematographers, they've worked together on multiple films. And when that happens, there is this kind of unwritten secondhand that you are able to provide. There's a chemistry there, and you really get a sense for that. I got a chance to sit in on a Q&A with the filmmakers for this, and I asked the question, what have you learned from each other over the course of this? And one of the things that came up is that, we're not scared to take chances, but we also want to have a plan in place. And they said, with a film like this, having a plan, a loose outline for certain things is perfect, because if you show up in this location and it's snowing, let's build that into the story. I just thought it was a wonderful, simple yet thought-provoking film, and I loved it. I loved so many things about it, and I think we're going to see more and more and more from these filmmakers together. What is any other thoughts or ratings you want to make sure you share?
Yeah, solid A for this. It's one of those, I think I watched it for the first time about 2 months ago, and the more it sits with you, just the more it kind of washes over you, and the more you appreciate it. And so, yeah, just I'm glad to see all the love that it's getting this award season.
Yeah, I am as well. An A rating for me for Nomadland. I am Noel T. Manning II. It's Thomas Manning. You've been watching Meet Me at the Movies right here on C19 TV. And if you're listening through radio, WGWG, WGWG.org, we appreciate that. I'm not going to say that fast anymore because you'll miss it that next time. I'll leave you with a quote of the week. This comes from the movie Raya. Every story has an end, but in life, every ending is just a new beginning. So until next time, I am Noel Manning for Thomas Manning and for Meet Me at the Movies. We really appreciate you and appreciate all those who take the time to make sure this show is put together. Greg Tillman. Until next time, that's a wrap.